In step 6, we profile segments. Profiling is about getting to know the market segments resulting from step 5, and it's about identifying their defining characteristics. Segment profiling is only necessary in data-driven segmentation. For common sense segmentation, we know in advance what the defining characteristic of each segment is, because we used it as a splitting criterion. Profiling is not segment description. Segment description, done in step 7, uses descriptor variables. Descriptor variables are additional pieces of information we have about consumers. They help us learn more about our market segments, and we have not used them to extract market segments. Profiling uses only segmentation variables. We did use those variables to extract segments. During extraction, we make market segments as different as possible with respect to the segmentation variables. It is therefore not permissible to use standard tests to assess the significance of differences in segmentation variables. Profiling, therefore, is primarily about presenting the pattern of segmentation variables for each market segment. We want to do that in a way that makes it easy for users to identify segmentation variables which are particularly characteristic for certain market segments. 3 different ways of presenting segment profiles are commonly used. One is to develop qualitative segment profiles by verbally describing typical consumers in the segment. While this profiling approach is easy to understand, much of the detailed information about the market segments is lost. A second approach, most commonly used in academic market segmentation studies, is to present results in a table. Tables contain a lot of detail, but the essence of the market segments is difficult to grasp quickly. The third approach is to visualize the same information that's contained in the table in a graph. This approach does not sacrifice detail and makes it easier for users to gain insight into the key segment characteristics. Look at this table. You can see 6 segments. You can also see each segment's profile for 20 segmentation variables. To understand key segment characteristics, you need to compare each value for each segment variable combination with the values for all other segment variable combinations and with the values for the overall sample value. That's a lot of pairwise comparisons of numbers, 420 to be precise. Instead of drowning in data and getting overwhelmed with hundreds of comparisons, we can instead use a graph to visualize the table. What you see here is a so-called segment profile plot. Using a different color for each segment, it shows the value for each segmentation variable compared to the overall sample value for that same variable. Bars represent segment values. Red horizontal lines with dots at the end represent the overall sample value. To make the graph even easier to read, we can order the variables. And we can highlight all variables that are above a threshold of minimal difference to the overall sample. You can see how this is done in R in the demo on segment profiling. The resulting segment profile plot is very easy to interpret. We can immediately see that segment 1 is not motivated by any travel motives, whereas segment 5 is motivated by all of them. Keep in mind that those 2 segments could also capture response styles. We can also see that segment 2 is all about not exceeding the budget. Segment 3 wants fun and entertainment and does not care about prices. Segment 4 is interested in culture and locals and likes a challenge. And segment 6 is all about experiencing nature. It seems that a picture does indeed say 1,000 words, or numbers in our case. To double check, we used an eye tracker to see how a person processes the segment profile plot compared to a table. The heat maps you see here show how long the person we tested looked at certain areas of the table and the graph to answer a question. The question required them to understand segments 1 and 6. Red indicates long processing times. You can see that the person needed much more time looking at the table than at the graph to answer the question. Other aspects of the market segmentation solution, such as segment separation, can also be visualized. In this plot, for example, each segment is depicted as a geometrical shape of a certain color. When projected into two-dimensional space, these shapes show the degree to which market segments overlap. Given all the time invested in getting the best possible market segmentation solution, it is well worth putting a bit more effort into the profiling stage. After all, from the user's perspective, this is when market segments start coming to life. It's critically important that users have a good understanding of the segments before they proceed to selecting target segments.